Hey mathematicians, and happy Monday. I hope you all had an awesome weekend and are ready to dive into some work this week. We are going to kick off with two-step equations. So we spent the end of last week reviewing single-step equations, which we had done a little bit earlier in the school year, but it's always good to do some review. And so today and tomorrow we're going to jump ahead into two-step equations, which is really going to set you up for a nice successful transition to pre-algebra next year. But before we begin, here's a little laugh for you. I think this one was from Catherine. Either Catherine or Natalia sent this to me last week, and it made me laugh a lot. So if you guys come across or in your Googling or your free time find some funny math memes, make sure you email them to me so we can have a good laugh. All right, before we go any further with today's lesson, I want you to press pause now, go back to the DLP, and click the link for our mindfulness practice. It's about a minute meditation with your boy Andy from Headspace, and this will just be a nice way to ground us and set us up for the week and the class on the right foot. So press pause now. I'm going to do the same. Go do a little meditation, and I'll see you back here in about a minute. Welcome back. I think that it's important for us to remember that no matter what, you can always come back to your breath. So that's a strategy that I use regularly, especially during this weird distance learning that I'm still getting the hang of, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, like I have my growing to-do list that's stressing me out, or I just realized that I've been sitting at the computer for a long time. Remember, you can always come back to your breath. You can always take a long, deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. You can always close your eyes for a few minutes and just focus on your breath. That's a strategy you don't have to just use on our Mindfulness Mondays, but you can use at any point. All right. As you know, we are transitioning into our Google Classroom that we started working with a little bit last week. We're going to continue on with that. I think it will be maybe a small adjustment for a few of you, but I think most of you are used to this layout, and I think it will actually help keep us organized and allow me to give you more timely feedback, and you'll kind of have a one-stop shop to find everything you need for math. The Google Classroom links will still be in the DLP, so you're not going to have to check multiple places. You will always go to the distance learning plan first, and that will link you to the Google Classroom. We're also going to continue on with our Google Meets Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 o'clock. I look forward to seeing you guys there every week. If you're not feeling well, if something's come up and you can't access the meet, just like it would be if you miss class, I need you or your parents to shoot me an email and let me know. So those Google Meets are mandatory, but of course life happens. So please let me know if you're going to miss one so I can be sure to catch you up. Alrighty, let's get into the math. So we're going to talk today about transitioning from one-step equations to two-step equations. So one-step equations so far have just involved a single operation. You have been trying to isolate that variable. Remember, the variable is our letter that's representing an unknown by using the inverse operation. So 5x is multiplication, so you would be using division to isolate the variable and find out what x means. So if I use division, I would divide both sides by 5 because I know with an equation I have to keep it balanced. What I do to one side, I would do to the other. You can see I crossed out the 5 x over 5. 5 divided by 5 is just 1, so 1x. And then I did 25 divided by 5, which gives me 5. I can always plug my answer back in, and I can see that 5 times 5 equals 25. So that's one thing I love about equations, whether they're one-step or two-step equations. You actually can check your work right away and know if your equation makes sense. So that's a cool strategy to use. The same thing happens, I'm just doing some real basic equations here for us to jog your memory. Same thing with addition and subtraction. My variable here is t. If I want to isolate t, I need to get rid of the 10. So I'm going to use the inverse operation. The inverse operation of addition is subtraction. And what I do to one side of the equal sign, I must do to the other, because an equal sign is just a balance. So I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides of my equal sign. 10 minus 10 gives me nothing, so I just have t equals 6. Again, I can plug that back in. T equals 6, so 6 plus 10 equals 16. A nice way for me to check my work right there. All right, are you ready for two-step equations? I know it, you're ready. You're so ready. So we're going to learn about some vocabulary with two-step equations and do some practice problems that will last you today and tomorrow. Let's jump into it. All right, two-step equations. I'm going to introduce some new vocabulary to you. And some of these vocabulary terms you definitely have experience with. So right now you'll see an example of a two-step equation. And you might be wondering, why is that a two-step equation? Well, we have more than one operation going on. So 5y is showing multiplication, and we have a plus 14. So it's a two-step equation because there are two operations happening. You'll notice some things are the same. We still have an equal sign. It's still an equation. We still have an answer. So where you know that we're still going to balance both sides of the equation. I want to introduce some new words that are going to help us and that you're going to hear me using over the next few days. We're already familiar with variable. Our variable is our unknown. So in this problem, it's y. Y is our variable. We don't know how much y equals. And our goal remains the same. We want to isolate y. We want to get y alone. The number that is attached to the variable is called our coefficient. So whether that's multiplying, dividing, adding, or subtracting, the number that is directly connected to the variable and receiving the operation from the variable is called our coefficient. And then our constant is the other number and attached to an operation in the problem. So we have the coefficient and the variable that go together. Then we have our constant. Like I said, we're still going to isolate the variable, meaning get the variable alone, using the inverse operation, which will require us to balance the equation. And this is going to involve two steps. So I'm going to keep this vocabulary up here because you're going to hear me referring to it during our practice problem. All right, the most important thing to do when you have a two-step equation is we want to get rid of the constant first. So leave the variable and the coefficient alone, let them be, and get rid of the constant first. A math teacher that I used to know used to give this example all the time, and it made me laugh and it stuck with me. Okay, so pretend the variable is a celebrity that you really like. So I love Beyonce. I'm going to pretend Beyonce is Y. All right, the coefficient to Beyonce, who's always with Beyonce? I'm going to say her husband, Jay-Z. So I have Beyonce and I have Jay-Z, and then this is going to be their bouncer, all right? He's like the bodyguard who's protecting them and is like getting all the weird fans away. So if I want to get Beyonce's autograph first, I would need to get rid of the bodyguard, like get away. The person who's not next to Beyonce but still around her. So I'm getting rid of the bodyguard, and that's my first step. So my constant is the bodyguard. Then I'll handle getting Jay-Z out of the way so I can get my autograph and my selfie. So get rid of the constant. You already know how to do that. You're just balancing the equation using the inverse operation. We have a plus 14, so you're going to subtract the 14 on both sides of the equation. When we do that, we've subtracted 14 on both sides, so the 14s are going to cancel out, and I have my 5y So I have my Jay-Z and my Beyonce, and 29 minus 14 is going to leave me with 15. Now this should look super familiar. Now you just have this awesome, nice one-step equation. And you actually know exactly what to do here. You're going to divide both sides by 5 because the inverse operation to multiplication is division, and you're going to be left with y equals 3. Now we can check our answer really easily here. Let's take 3 and plug it back into the problem. 5 times 3 is 15, and 15 plus 14 is going to give me 29. So always go back and plug your answer in. You still need to use the order of operations when you're solving, but you can plug your answer in right there and boom, you'll know if it makes sense. So if it helps you, think of the constant as the bodyguard, think of your coefficient as Jay-Z, and your variable as Beyonce. So get rid of the bodyguard, get rid of Jay-Z, then you and Beyonce can have your beautiful selfie together. I think we have time for probably one more practice problem together before I let you guys do some practice on your own. So make sure you have paper, pencil, something nearby so you can give this one a try with me. All right, here we go. We have 3w minus 18 equals 12. So again, my first step, get rid of that constant. So get rid of that bodyguard. So 18, I'm going to use the inverse operation of subtraction, which is addition. And I'm going to draw this line so I remember to do the same thing on both sides, balancing my equation, because an equal sign is just a balance. Negative 18 plus 18 cancels each other out. And then I have 12 plus 18, which is going to give me 30. All right, then I can bring the rest of my problem down. I have a 3w left. So there's Jay-Z, there's Beyonce. Remember, I want to get my variable alone. So now I have to get rid of the coefficient. The coefficient, my 3w, is multiplication. So I'm going to use division on both sides of my equation. 3 divided by 3 is 1. It cancels each other out. So now I have w equals 10. And then I can plug that back in. 3 times 10 is 30. 30 minus 18 equals 12. Boom. All right, I'm going to try to sneak in one more practice problem. Give this one a try. We have w divided by 2 plus 1 equals 6. Okay, think about what your first step is going to be. I'm going to subtract by 1 on both sides of my equal sign. This cancels each other out, and now I'm left with 5. I'm going to bring down my w divided by 2 equals 5. The opposite of division is multiplication, so I'm going to multiply by 2, multiply by 2, cancels out, and I have w equals 10. Let's plug it in and see if it makes sense. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 plus 1 equals 6. All right, guys, that's all there is to it with two-step equations. Email me if you have questions, and we will meet together at 11 o'clock in our Google Meet. So if you want to save your questions till then, no problem. We are going to continue practicing with two-step equations tomorrow. So I look forward to putting our brains together and continuing to work through this. Have a wonderful start to your week, and I will see you later. Bye.